Hello, and welcome to No Soul Left Behind. I'm Laura Brockway, and tonight I am really excited to introduce to you a really dynamic friend of mine, Kathy Hatch of kathysright.com. I want you all to check out her website. It's She talks about politics, art, and faith, and never live down to the expectations of others. She's a very positive and dynamic person. She has a wonderful website, blog, and uh, a podcast that I want you all to watch. She's also a pro life Catholic and a good friend of mine. Without further ado, welcome Kathy Hatch.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. I'm so excited.
Oh,
I was
Kathy,
I was worried. I was like, oh, how are you?
no, not worried. I am really good, and I'm so happy to finally be having you on because I had talked about it and then I took a break and then our schedules weren't working out. So finally here we are. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
I'm really happy to have you and happy to show your website to all of my viewers here. And I want you all to subscribe to her blog because I personally like Kathy's politics, that she is on top of everything. She is a hammer at the politics. But that's not all Kathy is about. So I brought her on here to tell you all about her website and her work tonight. Kathy, first of all, what inspired you to do this at this time, and how did you get started?
Well, I've always enjoyed writing. And with the elections coming and before the elections even, I have a spiritual life. I'm a Catholic and I found myself defending my faith almost all the time. Mostly because people have a lot of misconceptions about the Catholic faith. And I found that I'm pretty good at explaining it. So that's how that started. And then I wanted people to know it's not just about church. It's about, church Jesus and also Mary. And I wanted to explain why we love Mary so much. There's so much that people misunderstand about the faith. And I just feel like I'm the person that can do it because it seems like I've been in training for this my whole life. I've taken a lot of, theological classes in Catholicism. Of course, I aced all of them. And I'm a experienced debater from college. And so explaining my cause is what I do. And I'm biblically trained as well. So I often am approached in a way that, well, you Catholics do this or you do that. And I can pretty much tell them scripturally why we do everything that we do. And the entire mass is biblical. And I usually use their Bible to do it. So that's the best way to convince people. Because they won't believe if you bring out your Bible, and even though theirs is missing books, but I can still use theirs. But I started explaining the faith to my friends and family. I've had several of my friends who have converted, and my husband converted, and everywhere I've ever lived, people seem to come to the church because if they ask me, I'm going to answer them. So I'm pretty
You
happy.
you are a staunch defender of the faith. I watch you on your podcast and on social media all the time, and that's the one thing that I can say is that most of my viewers are Catholic, most of my followers are Catholic, so I don't come up against that much resistance like you do. You
Yeah.
really, because you're really, I don't know what you really embrace all Protestants and all Christians and all believers as one family of God, which it's not that I don't do that. It's just
Mhm.
that I'm Catholic, 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 so I don't
Right.
have those other followers. They aren't interested in what I'm covering necessarily. But that's something I really admire about you because you can reach the seculars too, and you can talk about it all, and you never miss a beat. So, so I can imagine you are also. I know you do also great work in the pro-life movement, and I know that your debating skills have got to be very helpful there. So
Actually,
I want to
yes.
go ahead and segue into uh, tell us about your work and how you got started in that. I know that's a really special story.
Well, once upon a time, I was pro-choice, which to me, I consider pro-death at this point. But I really thought that I was pro-choice. And my sister, who's also a very devout Catholic, she would cry at the mention of me being that way. And I remember her just bawling in the car, and I was telling her, but why are you worried? She goes, well, you just can't think this way. We're Catholic. And she was so upset. And I really thought I was onto something. I thought I knew everything. I was in college. I thought I knew everything back then. And then, after having a friend of mine have an abortion and seeing her life completely destroyed from it, she lost part of her soul. It felt like she was a different person after. And I lost her as a friend after, picking her up several times. She was heartbroken. I think she knew what she had done was awful and profane, and she felt bad. And I didn't know how to comfort her, because I told her, I said, well, as a Catholic, I was like, kind of like they are on TV. Oh, I can't help you with an abortion, but you do you, right? And that's where I was. And I wished I had been different. But later on,
for about a minute and a half, I was there too. Just, I don't, what other people are going to do, what they do. And because that's what society had kind of convinced us of at that age. So don't feel so bad. A lot of us were brainwashed.
yes,
So
we were.
don't feel so bad about that, because it is a brainwashing, and some of us have come out of it and woken up, and some of us haven't. So that's one reason I can be more sympathetic towards them, instead of just. But it's getting harder and harder. Harder and harder to be sympathetic with them. I apologize if I interrupted, but
No.
I just wanted you to know you're not alone on that one. A lot of us, obviously, we didn't understand what was going on in the industry, and we were believing what we were being told. So
public school. I went to public school, and that is where I learned all about that stuff. But they didn't show me an ultrasound. They didn't show me a heartbeat. They didn't let me know. I mean, all I knew about babies was 5th grade sex ed class, and they don't tell you about the life of the child. What happened was, I did get pregnant when I was married. I got married. About a year into my marriage, I got pregnant. I was really, really happy. And I was so excited, and I was starting to show, and I was starting to buy things. And then I lost my baby. And the mourning that I went through, and I still go through, but the mourning, the heartache, I was mourning my child, the soul of my child. I was in mourning, and I was thinking, what about all those other babies? They died too. They had a soul. Somebody should have mourned for them, and I just thought, how could I wouldn't even open the windows for 4 months. I was devastated. It wasn't because I lost, it was because my child died. And that was the difference. And I think that's unfortunately how many lessons are learned. Is something horrible happens, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? But then when I think about other people and how I used to think, well, so it's all right for you, but not for me. But then that doesn't make any sense, because if a child down the street was getting beaten, would I not step in to stop that?
I'm saying, I personally wouldn't murder my child, but I'm okay with you murdering yours.
Exactly.
And that's just another brainwashing. That's what they've been taught, and it really is the brainwashing technique they have, as you know, dehumanized the unborn. And
yes, but when you're pregnant, if they saw you taking a drink, they'd go, oh my gosh, she's drinking while pregnant. Or
the hypocrisy is so bad in all, well, as we know, in everything right now, especially in the abortion industry and in the healthcare industry. I'm not considering the abortion industry part of the healthcare industry either.
Don't let them fool anybody, because that's what they're doing. They play with words and flip them around. They make bad things sound good.
Semantics.
Remember when gay used to mean happy?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
now it just
Oh
means,
yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. All these euphemisms. Oh, Planned Parenthood. That has nothing to do with planning or
Or
parenthood.
parenthood.
Nothing to
No, it
do with it.
doesn't.
It's about,
No,
oh,
it's
let's see, we're
mhm.
going to give you contraception so you can go off and sin as much as you want because they'll work 100%. But just in
But
case you
that's the
mess
psych
that up.
warfare. If they called it what it really is, then no one would take it. So they have to call it a right or freedom or choice or turn it around. 'Cause that's what the devil does.
Yes,
And
that's what he did. But we have to start
mm,
calling it what it is. We have to
mm,
not buy into it and call it what it is, no matter how uncomfortable. That's part of
mm,
the reason I started my blog, because those uncomfortable things need to be talked about. We spent so much of our lives and so much of this century being politically correct and being polite. And while we were being polite, the left sucked in that void and made it something diabolical. They filled that vacuum. And that's why I'm not going to be silent anymore. I won't. I won't let them make me. I'm not going to use their pronouns. I'm not going to use any of the things that they're trying to convince me to do, because it's just cooperating with evil.
absolutely is. It's rejecting what God made you to be. And for me, I mean, I think everyone knows where I stand on it. So I'm not going to tell my story because we don't even have time for that. This isn't about me. But it is diabolical. It's rejecting everything that God made you to be. And the devil purposely confused all of those souls on purpose. I mean, you think about it. I mean, first of all, let me just say nobody's happy with their body or with who they are. There is a multi-trillion-dollar industry to make us feel bad about ourselves,
To
and
make
it
us feel
works.
inadequate.
Absolutely.
And
So we
look at all
all
these
feel those
Olympic
things. We
women.
don't have to cut our body parts. It doesn't make us something that we're not. And
Exactly.
as for the entire anybody who puts on lipstick, and I'm sorry, but anybody who wears lipstick and boobs is not a woman. They are
No,
degrading us in saying that anybody with boobs in a skirt they're making it so
they're
shallow
mocking
to
God,
be
is
a
what they're
woman. That's
doing.
not what we are either. They're mocking women too, because
Oh,
that's
yeah.
not all we are. We
No,
are heart, we are soul, and our souls were created to trust and serve our creator. And so any man who thinks he's a woman is already not one, because he's serving himself and not the God who created us.
yeah.
I'm sorry I went on a
It's the
tangent, but
flesh. Well, it's
it's
thinking with the flesh.
diabolical.
And I can
Mm.
understand that there are some people who are sexually confused, and they
They
really
did
think,
that to everyone on purpose.
yeah. But the thing is, we don't buy into it. We have to be the arbiters of truth. We have to be the ones. We can't play their game, because if we play their game, they'll win every time.
100%. I always tell people too, I mean, you don't have to be as bold as I am. I have stories that have made me defensive about it. But you know, don't be the beast. Don't play into it. You need to tell them the truth. You can tell them with love and mercy. Right? If you
Yes.
go along with it, you're going along with the lie, and you're going to have to answer to God for a lie.
Yeah. I've had really great friends who were uh, uh, gay, a guy, and he's dead now. But I'm very proud that my last conversation was, I told him that I said, I don't know what you do in private, and I don't want to know what you do in private, but I do know that God loves you, and that's all I know for sure. I can't tell people, oh yeah, you're going to go to heaven, you're going to go. I don't know all that. I'm not God, but I do know. And there's just so many people that need to hear that, who think they're inadequate. I think that a lot of times
We all
these,
think we're inadequate.
yeah, but then, but it's okay to feel that way every once in a while. But we also, we are unworthy of the Eucharist, but God sees fit somehow to allow us to have the
Mhm.
Eucharist. That is, I was reading about, oh, I don't want to change the subject. I'll talk about that later.
But let's talk about a little bit back to the pro-life movement, because we made so much progress with 4 years of President Trump.
Yes.
And some people are getting a little bit discouraged right now, but we cannot give up hope. What are your thoughts on where we're at now?
Right now, Texas is fighting. The heartbeat law, is in effect. They're trying to demolish it, but I don't think they're going to be successful. I think this is going to happen state after state after state after state because we're not going away. And that's what they were hoping for. And we're not going away. And every year we have these marches, and I go to the marches. And the one in Texas, we have thousands upon thousands of people, and it will not even make the local news. Thousands and thousands of people in the street.
Well, that's on purpose. They don't want anyone to know that that's even an option to be against it.
Yeah.
That's all on purpose.
But there's Christians. We're all praying and singing all the way to the Capitol, the state Capitol, and it is the most wonderful day, except for when you see the protesters. They're gross. I mean, just gross.
They really are. I mean, I go once in a while to the Planned Parenthoods or some other prayer rallies, and they really are. That's not even an adequate description. They are gross. They are vile and vicious, and pretty sure they're possessed by the devil.
And they bring their kids.
Have no shame whatsoever.
They
no
don't.
Shame.
But you know what they're really fighting for? Not just the killing of their own children and other people's children. They're really fighting for immorality. They're fighting for the right to just sleep around with people rather than wait and be married like you're supposed to. That's what they're fighting for. They're fighting to be.
Hasn't everything just completely turned around inside out in over the course of our lifetime? When things were modest, and you kept. You know what? I should probably care what people do, but I don't care what people do because I don't want people to be in sin.
Mm-hmm.
But it's none of my business what people do when they keep it to themselves. But they don't keep it to themselves, or I wouldn't know about it.
Exactly.
So as long as you're going to keep putting it on me and putting it in public, then it's a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm talking with my hands, and I'm not Italian. I get excited.
I talk with my hands too, and I'm not Italian.
Tiny little window, and I get going. But so it is so diabolical, the things they accuse us of and the things that they are actually doing. And then it's not just the murder, because that's just the tip of the iceberg. These babies, many, I mean, especially these late term, are brought out alive on purpose, and things harvested from them. Then those
true.
organs are taken, and very, very diabolical things are done with them in eugenics to create clone people and all kinds of evil, diabolical things. And
there's cosmetics.
That's not even to mention that the things that they don't use out of it are being used in satanic rituals, literally being offered up to the devil. So, I mean, there's so much evil.
That's all true.
So many layers of it. And there's so many people who don't understand that. They think it's just a blob that's being flushed down the toilet or something, and that's not at all what's happening. And then, and the same thing, this is off the subject, but still pro-life, in vitro, people do not understand all of this. What happens to the fertilized embryos the parents do not want? Usually there can be up to 10 fertilized embryos. And if the parents say, well, we only want one, they got 9 babies now they now have to do something with, either murder completely or even worse, cryo freeze.
They cryo freeze, and then when they can't afford that, they throw them away.
Yes, that soul, as soon as that life is created, it receives a soul from God, and then sick human beings freeze it. Imagine how sick this soul is in complete limbo. But now I heard in the vaccine booster, they're using those cryogenically frozen embryos from the in vitro.
I've read
It's
that,
so
and I keep
diabolical.
cross-referencing because I'm thinking this can't be true. Then I find it somewhere else, and I go, this can't possibly be true. I got sent a video today of a doctor talking about exactly that, very nonchalantly, like it's not that big of a deal.
Don't think they're not using them for clones and stuff too. There's no accountability for all this crazy stuff. And these the transhuman code nonsense that is going on at Davos and the all kinds of crazy diabolical things going on. And I know it's overwhelming. People don't want to think about it, or they just want to call me crazy for saying it, but these are all facts.
I'm not calling you crazy.
What's going on in the world. And I think anyone who is turning a blind eye to it all is absolutely crazy, brainwashed, or possessed by the devil, because it is so diabolical. And we were all complacent enough to get this far.
Yes.
So it's going to take really, truly just divine intervention. And it's happened before. Our Lady of Guadalupe stopped a lot of murders, and I'm sure she can do it again. So
yeah, she can.
Keep praying to Our Lady and keep invoking her.
Don't you feel sorry for people who don't have Mary? I'm thinking,
oh my gosh.
I said, you Protestants are keeping all the saints unemployed. They're there for you.
Not because I keep them employed, but no, it's true. I tell it like this because, and this is a relative of mine who doesn't understand the Blessed Mother and also doesn't has left the Catholic Church, but she can't ever leave being Catholic. But I was explaining because when I post things about the Blessed Mother, he would say, "I don't understand. I just spend time with Jesus." And I try
That's what I hear a lot too. Oh, it's just me and Jesus. That's all I need.
Jesus and Mary are always together. So if you are always seeking Jesus and not the Blessed Mother, that's okay. She's always with him. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of like your entire life you've been in a room with your mother and your father with your back turned to your mother, ignoring her the entire time. Mm-hmm. She's still going to tolerate it and love you and wait for you to come to her.
Yes, she will.
But what a waste that you wasted all that time when she was right there for you.
Ignoring your mother. I know.
Your back turned to her saying, I only acknowledge Dad. I don't have anybody else or need anybody else. Because they're a team, Jesus and Mary, and they're always together. So, and honor thy mother, it's a commandment. She's on it.
And I have to say, because I have to pay homage to Joseph, because Joseph,
oh, absolutely,
he has answered so many prayers. He's a worker bee up in heaven. I mean, you ask for Joseph's prayers.
Neither of them have rested in 2,000 years. They're busy helping us.
Well, I think that he brought my husband into the church.
Oh, that's beautiful. I know. He was a tough one for me, and I want to say it was a tough one for me to crack, but it's totally the other way around. I was a tough one for him to crack, for sure. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. That guy's been waiting.
I love the way you put things.
But because, well, I mean, and I truly believe it's because unfortunately, I did not have a father in the home growing up, or, and to lead the family and lead the family in the faith, especially. So it was never natural for me to turn to St. Joseph, a father. I am naturally a turn to the women and to the mother, always, and hide behind the mother, always. So it was hard for me to force myself to turn to St. Joseph, and then he was like, I've been waiting, and they just started doing all this stuff for me. So as I said, St. Joseph, I'm so sorry that I don't think to invoke you. I'm sorry, I just don't think to. So could you just help me anyway? And all this stuff started happening. So yes. All he needs is some trust. He needs our trust, and so far it's worked. But
think of the nuclear family. I mean, that is what's under attack today. So Jesus had a nuclear family.
On the family.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, but Jesus, his nuclear family was Joseph and Mary and Jesus. Mm-hmm. And that was the formula that God wanted for us. He wanted us to have, you know, parents. And a lot of times when parents don't do their due diligence, or either like they pass on, like my first husband, he passed on. So I was left with a
I'm sorry.
baby. Yeah, I had my baby. And so you know, I prayed to Saint Joseph,
Mhm.
and because I thought he would give me his attention like a father would for my child. And then when I met my husband, now I prayed to Saint Joseph to bring him into the church, because I really was tired of sitting at church alone. And so, and he was a hard nut to crack, that's for sure. He was
Mm.
total heathen. I liked my heathen, but
Nothing's
then
impossible for St. Joseph.
he did. I did the Saint Joseph 50th year prayer novena. Never
Oh,
been
nice.
known to fail.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
Never.
I
And
know.
it was a miracle. So, but back to the pro life. When I talk about the nuclear family under attack, that is totally what the Planned Parenthood is about, to attacking the
Mhm.
family. When you make a mother disconnect from her child mentally, emotionally, and physically, that's war on the family.
Absolutely. And we were told at Fatima that the war would be on the family. And I have seen proof of that in my own family and in my own life. And I don't know of any family who has not been attacked by, families are so broken up and torn apart. And I look at my peers, my traditional Catholic families, that these very huge families, and they're very close and tight, and how hard it is for them to keep it close and tight. And it's just the only way they do it, because it's all centered around God, centered around the tabernacle. They've passed the faith on to their children. Their children are thriving in the faith, and they keep their children tight and homeschool them. But I can see how hard that is, because society is trying to rip them apart
It
in
is.
every way, shape, and form.
Every time they open the
And
door.
yes, and just even, I mean, the system is trying to take kids away from homeschooling and away from the parents. At the I was reading something that said something about how the system brainwashes, and they need to get the kids away from the parents at the youngest age possible. That's part of the reason they're doing all this transgender nonsense at ridiculously young ages, because that allows the state to take the child away and then can manipulate the child's head. And
Exactly.
the main goal in the first place is to erase everything the parents taught them. So that's why they need to get them away from the parents,
Absolutely.
and especially things about God. They need to
Mhm.
deprogram the kids, or get a hold of them before they are programmed in the first place. So,
Mhm.
so that's why it's so important that parents start right out of the womb. You need to pass on the faith. You need to keep your kids tight. You need to protect them from what's going on out there. Don't send them out in the world. Don't don't encourage that worldliness, because it's hard enough.
The
So,
world is going to attack your family no matter
hmm
what. The minute they go to
oh yeah.
kindergarten or anything, it always is. And the television and everything that you see is all propagated for the destruction of the family. So we have to fight harder. I was very happy today. My daughter called and said she wants to homeschool because she's not happy with what's going on at her school. And I said, well, think about Catholic school, because they have some really good Catholic schools with a sliding scale, for payment.
Be careful there, though, too, because so many of them have gone off the rails. So you really have
Oh,
to check the curriculum at Catholic schools very carefully.
I
Um,
agree.
I since especially I've noticed around here, because they take the vouchers, they have compromised on the curriculum being truly Catholic.
Oh,
So that's what I see. I'm not saying that that's everywhere, but I definitely know that that's happened here, and it's very disappointing that they would compromise anything
right.
that they do. So,
Oh, the
mhm,
catechisms that I'm seeing at different churches, very watered down. It's very sad. I mean, I've had fights,
mhm.
arguments, with priests about the curriculum. I'm like, this isn't Catholic.
Oh, I've seen that so many times. I heard my own mother 40 years ago complaining about the same thing just not long after Vatican II. And, what is this? What is this cut and paste catechism? And so she catechized us herself. You had to go to catechism. But then we had to have catechism at home with Mom, the Baltimore and Trent also, because he was not going to leave our salvation up to some, just as she said, some random layperson. If the priest isn't teaching it, I'm teaching it. So, do you know how grateful I am now? But back then, I literally accused her. You're torturing us. None of our grandmothers were torturing us. And with this Latin, stop torturing me with the dead language. And it just went on and on. And I'm so grateful for her now. Nobody else had to do all that stuff.
Well, you were blessed to have her for sure.
That's what I'm saying. It's just so funny because, that's why I give a lot of other people time to be patient, because it took me a long time. But so pro-life movement, I mean, we are going forward. We're making leaps and bounds. I believe you. I also believe that not just about the heartbeat bill will the rest of the states follow suit, following one at a time like dominoes, but also with the euthanasia. I believe we're going to make some progress state to state on halting that. I just know it in my heart. I know there's a movement. I know a few things going on that I can't announce. It's not my work. But that's really something that I hope I get to do a show on soon.
That is something I'd like to hear about.
With some breakthrough legislation on some of these euthanasia bills. I know one of my friends a few years ago in Iowa was trying to pass Alfie's law, and I don't know what happened to that. I'm going to check in with him. I know he's not going to give up though. And another friend, Christine, who is now over in Europe, she was, she's like a liaison, and she's involved in all of these hospital kidnap euthanasia cases.
Well, that's a slippery slope, the euthanasia.
I get some good information, and it's just also. So we have a long way to go, but we're making a lot of progress too. And we need to be grateful for every little inch God gives us, because we deserve it. We have been complacent, but we're complacent no more. We're fighting back now. And we're all we're not giving up. So,
and that's the best thing.
Come through us to get the babies.
Exactly. That's the best thing, is I'm seeing a lot of people, Catholics and Protestants, and a lot of people are waking up. They're getting bolder. They're getting louder, because they're getting tired of being led by the nose, by the liberal left. Tired of it. I'm happy to see those parents at those schools criticizing the critical race theory, baloney conspiracy theory thing. Oh my gosh. So I'm happy to see it. I'm like, yes, it's about time. It is about time. So that COVID, a lot of parents found out what their kids were really learning, and they woke up.
Oh, you bet. You bet. You saw that. In fact, I shared something today that was, every classroom should have, every parent should have access to a camera to tune into the classroom and at any time and see what the teacher is saying to their children. And I mean, that's how it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be government controlling everything and telling us what they can and can't do, or what we can and can't do. It should be all open, and they are programming the kids. That's why they won't let you do that.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want you to know what they're telling your kids.
They don't want you to know.
So homeschool your kids, and
there's some great homeschool programs. I have some friends that did Seton homeschooling. It's really good. It's very.
There's quite a few of them that are really good. I've heard a lot of them recommended, and it depends, what a child needs, what the parent who's teaching it, and what they need. But it's very doable. There's that many different systems out there, so don't let it scare you. And there's a lot of homeschool co-ops where they all trade off teaching each other's kids, because one parent's better at one subject than another. So, don't let it discourage you because you don't know everything a teacher knows, because, you also don't know the politics, so it's not such a bad thing sometimes.
There's a lot of
You know,
options. The co-ops, the charter schools were great. I'm a product of a charter school. I was in the first elementary school for gifted students in Houston, Texas, the first one, and we were in the newspaper all the
congratulations.
time. But it was experimental. They didn't have desks. We sat on bean bags, and they thought it was
Is
all
that
hippie.
program still going now? It works,
Well, I think it's called something else now. I think they call it the GATE
but it
program.
kept going. So you said you
Yeah,
were experimental, but it worked.
yeah,
That's
yeah. They
see, that's
tested
really
us,
good.
but it got me out of my neighborhood. Was a nice neighborhood, but it got me out of my neighborhood. I got a much better education than most of my peers in my neighborhood because I got to go to this great school. And these schools, those charter schools, are saving a lot of kids who are in bad neighborhoods because that's their way out is to go to these charter schools that have special interests. It might be music or art or anything. It's just we need our children to have a lot of options. And I just think that now that parents are
I'm
getting
all
more
about the
involved,
vouchers too.
me
I'm
too.
all about the vouchers. I did make a comment about them that the Catholic schools are not as are not teaching true Catholic curriculum. I can't even say that, but that doesn't mean that I definitely believe in the vouchers and in school choice, and the choice doesn't have to be Catholic. So I don't think that the Catholics should compromise the education to get that state money because that's my beef with the Catholic Church, not
Right.
with the voucher system, just to separate those. Um,
We need more
you know,
catechesis, though. We need right now. We only
you
have
do?
cat CCD at our church. We only have it on Sundays, and I'm thinking,
Mm.
when my kids were taking their catechism, it was what was it? Well, they had some things on Sundays, but it was every week, and I think once or twice. But it was a lot more. But it was still not. I felt like
You
I
got to
still had to
study at
teach
home. I
them.
mean, yeah, well, that's the whole point. You are still supposed to teach them. I mean, it's not that just the church's job to teach them. You got to apply it at home. You got to study it. I mean, I'm a traditional Catholic, and our priest will, give the assignment. Your families are to go home and read the catechism, and we use the Baltimore. I teach from the Baltimore, but that's because that's what my mother taught me from. And the truth doesn't change over time.
I learned from the
So,
Baltimore first of all, and then
mhm.
of course
Yes,
when I
me too.
started studying in college, it was the catechism, and I did some really good essays though. I'm pretty proud of those. Those were kind of fun. But when you write
So
Catholic
yeah, I mean,
essays,
the kids have to. They have. If it's not applied at home, they're not going to learn the faith. And if you're not practicing it, you're not a good example to them. They will not learn the faith, and they will not take it seriously because, after all, mom drops me off at church, but I see her doing all this stuff that we're told not to do or whatever. Not you specifically, just use that as an example. But
hey, I
so it's
was not
really
a
important. I
perfect
mean, we have to
mom.
go out. We have to live the faith. Yeah, I wasn't talking about you specifically, but I see it a lot. I've seen it a lot that people want to just drop their kids off and have the church teach them the faith, and that's that. And it doesn't work like that. I mean, without my mother, I wouldn't know a thing because I didn't learn anything at church, even though I went all those years. I would not know anything I know now if not for my mother. So it's very important that parents just constantly reinforce it at home. Well, you know what? We, of course, have gone really long because I
Oh,
knew that
oh,
we would we would be talking so well, and I thought that would happen. And we gave it a shot at keeping it short, but we're doing we're doing about an hour on time. So as much as I think we could sit here talking all night, I think we could. But I'm gonna ask if you have any last thoughts or if you have anything coming up on your podcast that you want to share with us.
well, I do have some thoughts. Mostly, I just want people to have hope and not give up, and don't hang your head down low. Keep it up. Keep your heads up and look around and see what you can do. We're all just a little pebble, and every pebble can make a ripple effect. And you might be affecting the world by just a kind word or telling someone, encouraging a young mother to have her baby. That's helped. People have survived abortions because somebody opened their mouths and said, oh, maybe you shouldn't, and the mother changed her mind. And that's happened. There's ways to reverse the process. So I just want people to keep hope, because if without hope, we don't have anything. And that hope comes from, of course, Jesus Christ. So that is where my hope is. That is why I go to communion. That's why I go to Eucharist, because that keeps my hope strong.
Amen, sister. I tell you, it is our supernatural reinforcement. So I would say the Eucharist makes you a superhero. So
yes, it does.
and it really does, because it's a superpower. So all right. I cannot thank you enough for coming on. It's been a lot of fun, and I want to do some more stuff with you. I have a couple of ideas that I'm not going to talk about while we're recording, but maybe later. But until then, people on everyone to subscribe to kathysright.com, watch her podcast, read her blog, friend her on Facebook, join her group, kathysright.com, because there's some really good stuff that she puts out there too. I meant to mention it.
Oh, yeah.
Subscribe to her YouTube channel and just find Kathy and watch her, because I think you're going to learn a lot from her and get really inspired from her like I have. So,
oh, thank you. You inspired me.
Oh, well, that's what it's about. We have to keep inspiring each other, because, he put us all here right now together at this time for a reason.
I meet you, and now I'm practicing all my prayers in Latin, all of them.
See?
I'm doing my whole rosary in Latin now, because it just makes more sense. You have made that effect on me. That's big.
Oh my goodness, really? Thank you. I didn't know that was me.
That was you.
Wow. Well, I'm on, my mother is probably really just grinning. She's like, that was really me, because
it made me think. It made me look into it.
From her and all of her shoving the Latin down my throat for years, and I was rejecting it.
It's so important.
I'm going to go to English, math. It's easier and stuff. So now I'm trying to make up time for what I lost when I was rejecting it. So
we cannot lose our Latin.
To have inspired anyone, that I just made it all worth it for me. Thank you for telling me that. So,
well, when I talked to you, when I talked to you about it, I was thinking, why is Latin so important? And I started reading about it, and then I started thinking, I should know Latin. That was the language on above the head of Christ on the cross. Satan hates Latin. If the devil hates Latin, I'm learning Latin, because
it's the universal language of the church, and because
that's right.
We have so much history, and even what's fun? It's even fun because a lot of other people don't understand it, and so it's like a secret club. So I'm not trying to be exclusive, but I mean, hey, if you want to shun me, I'm going to turn that around on you.
I love languages, so I'm learning, this is beautiful. Do you want to?
Mm-hmm. Yes, why don't you? I will lead us in a closing Ave Maria. Okay.
Oh, Ave Maria.
In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti.
Amen.
Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus.
Santa Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Amen.
In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti.
Amen.
Oh, thank you so much. I love when someone who can pray in Latin with me. Well, I want to thank Kathy Hatch at kathysright.com and all of you for watching.
Thank you for having me.
We'll see. Oh, you bet. I hope to see you back. And we'll see you all here next time on No Soul Left Behind, where we're fighting for every single soul, including yours and mine. God bless you.